Hi everybody, and welcome back to week 6 of data analysis. This week starts what I consider to be the second unit of the course. And in the second unit of the course, we're going to move away from just looking at data that you have in front of you and describing it, which is what we've been doing all semester, and start talking about probability and how we can use samples to learn more about the world and learn more about populations. And where we're going to start today is talking about probability and something called probability distributions. So I'll start with the basics here, which is probability. And when I say probability, what I'm referring to is the likelihood that some outcome will recur given all other possible outcomes that there are. And almost all of you have probably encountered probability in various forms throughout your lives. For example, when you look at the weather on your phone and you see that there's a 90% chance of snow, you immediately know that this means that of all the possible weather outcomes we could have, there's a 90% chance that that outcome is going to be snow. And I say this today, of course, while it's snowing more in New Jersey. In expressing probability, typically we express it as a number from 0 to 1, where 0 means you have an absolute certainty that an outcome will not happen, and 1 means that you have an absolute certainty that an outcome will happen. And with everything in between 0 and 1, you don't have certainty, and instead you have some likelihood or chance. And I say we usually express it from 0 to 1, where we means statisticians and people using probability to do math. Most people, on the other hand, and what you're probably more familiar with, would be percent chance, which is another way of expressing probability. And what percent chance refers to is the number of times we would expect an outcome to occur if a trial were repeated 100 times. So as an example, if there's a 90% chance of snow, it means that if you were to have the same weather conditions 100 times in a row, 90 of them, we would expect it to snow. A 90% chance of snow would correspond to a probability of 0.9. So much like a proportion and a percent are essentially the same thing, you're just moving the decimal place over and adding a percentage. A probability and a percent chance do the same thing. So if you had a 90% chance of snow, you would have a probability of 0.9 that it was going to snow. As another example, if there was a 50% chance of snow, you'd have a probability of 0.5 that it was going to snow. So you can express probability in both of those ways. And you'll notice here that I said we would, the number of times we would expect an outcome if a trial was repeated 100 times. What a trial refers to in probability is any process that generates an outcome. So in the weather example, it's a little bit fuzzy what that trial would be exactly, but you can think of it as a day with certain weather conditions. A better example of a trial might be something like flipping a coin. If you flip a coin, your outcome is going to be either heads or tails. The trial is that coin flip, because that's a process that's going to generate an outcome, which is either heads or tails. And we'll see some more examples of this throughout this lecture. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to the document camera, and I'm going to go through an example of how to calculate probability and just what probability looks like in practice.